Hey guys, it's Julia here, and in this video we are going to show you how to install Arch Linux in UEFI, which I have my friend Dude Fox on the line, and he's an expert at installing Arch, and hopefully I'll learn something as well.
A lot of people hate on Arch because they claim it's quote-unquote hard or difficult, but it's not. Their wiki is really helpful, it gives really clear step-by-step instructions. It's just a lot of people do not care to read it and then wonder why something doesn't work.
Yeah, so hopefully this will clear things up with the people that are having trouble with the wiki.
So all we've done right now is boot into an Arch ISO, and that's it. We've done nothing else.
Yeah.
So I've actually forgotten, how much RAM did we give this VM?
I don't even remember. We made this VM a couple months ago, meaning the ISO is a couple months old, but it'll still work. We can update it. Huh? Oh, you forgot SY.
I always forget that. This is just the like live environment from when you download the ISO. I'm just trying, I don't remember how much RAM we gave it, as that's going to be important later during the installation.
Yes, you're going to need to know how much RAM you have because of swap.
Yeah, so just going to get this out the way. Swap, if you have, I believe it's 16 gigs or more, you really don't need it. If you have less than that, it's highly recommended.
For sure.
So we have 2 gigs in this VM, it looks like. Alright. So first thing we need to do is format our disk, or I guess we really need to see what the drive path of the hard disk is. In this case, we have a 30 gig virtual hard disk because this is VMware and it's on dev SDA. I've seen it like dev NVMe 0 blah blah blah. And I've seen it on multiple different things. You just need to figure out which drive it is so you don't screw this up. Now, this is going from starting with nothing, and we're going to be going to a full Arch installation.
With a GUI, hopefully.
Yes. So, now that we have our drive path, we're going to do fdisk dev SDA. Now, because we're doing UEFI, we need to tell it to start a new GPT partition table. In this case, all we do is type G. There we go, GPT. Now we need to make, with GPT and UEFI, you have to make 3 different partitions. An EFI partition, a swap if you're doing that, and your Linux data partition.
Yes.
So what we're going to do first is what I like to do. See here, we need to create, I like to go ahead and create our boot partition, and that's going to be N for new, 1 for sector, plus 512 meg. Your boot partition or your EFI partition should be around like 200 megs to 500 megs. You really don't need to go any more than a gig max. And we also need to set the type, so T, L, you can get all the types. We can clearly see EFI system is number 1. We'll hit Q to quit out of that and type 1. So now we have our EFI partition. We can clearly see that when we type P to list them all. SDA1 is our EFI.
And you made it 512 megs.
Yes, as the EFI doesn't need to be that big. Really, we could probably make it something like 128. I think that would be fine, but
for lower storage.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. EFI only holds like a couple files for boot. It's not really that big.
Exactly.
So now we need to make, in this case, because this system only has 2 gigs of RAM, we need to make swap. So we're going to do new partition number 2. Just leave first sector as default and do plus 2G. You want to make your swap about the same size as RAM to make it easy. We also need to change the type. And again, partition number 2. We need to list it and grab a swap, which is number 19. So again, hit Q, 19. Here we go. List it. And then the rest, you just go straight to our data partition. Now, if you want, you can split your data partition between a separate home and a separate data. We're not doing that in this video as there's no need to, but if you say you have multiple Linux installs and you want to keep it the same between all of them and have access to all your files, you could make 2 partitions and have your home partition just mapped to all your Linux partitions. So that way they're all synced.
So just make 2 Linux file system partitions, basically.
Pretty much. And this is what it will look like in the end. You have a 512 megabyte EFI system partition. You have whatever the size of swap, or if you don't have swap, then you don't need it. That just won't be there. And you have your Linux file system. So what we're going to do is type W to write this.
Oh yeah, because it doesn't do it unless you do W after.
Yeah, so if you make a mistake, you can easily be reversed.
I made the mistake and didn't do that once and lost everything.
Okay. So now that our partitions are created, and we can find that out by doing a command lsblk, we can see SDA has 3 partitions. So what I like to do first is go ahead and set swap. This is simply 2 commands, mkswap dev sda2, because that was our swap partition. Swap on dev sda2. 2. Okay, now we need to format our EFI partition. The EFI partition needs to be formatted FAT32. To do that in Arch, mkfs.fat dev sda1. Okay, and now our Linux file system. This will be formatted ext4. So mkfs.ext4/dev sda3. Okay. So now that we got that, we need to mount them. So the first thing you want to do is mount dev sda3, which will be our root file system, and you need to mount that to /mnt. Now we need to mount our EFI partition in there under a folder. Now you have to do this in a particular folder. So we're gonna mount SDA1, which is our EFI. Oh well, first maybe I should make the folders. So mkdir, which stands for make directory, mnt boot, and mnt EFI, or mnt boot EFI. Now we can mount dev sda1 under that directory, mnt boot EFI. All right, now we can get to installing the base config for Arch. So to do this, you're going to type, I'm going to clear my screen, and we're going to type pack strap /mnt, because that's where we will be installing Arch. And the basic package is normally base devel Linux, that's our kernel. Linux firmware it's got multiple things like wireless drivers and a lot of other things. It's recommended to have it. And Arch doesn't include a text editor, or if it does, I believe it's Vim. I don't use Vim, I use Nano. So we have to install that as a separate package because I don't know why they decided not to include it in. So when you hit enter, it's going to synchronize your database packages and start pulling all of the base configs for Arch and get them all installed. Luckily, we're doing this on a really fast computer, so this should not take very long.
I have a question. Did it create the EFI? You made the folders, but did it actually put it there?
Well, when what we did was we made the folder and then we mounted the EFI partition there. And when we configure Grub, that's when it's going to put all of its files and whatever it needs.
Oh, that makes sense.
So now we're downloading all the packages. Who knows how long this is going to take. So I guess I could have stated this earlier. So let's stop this real quick. And yes, you can do it. It's only downloading the files. When it's installing the files, that's a different story. Because we're only downloading. Huh?
Do not stop it when it's installing.
Yeah, so right now it's only downloading. So what it does first is it downloads all the files, verifies them, then installs them. But because we're getting such slow speeds, we need to fix it. So we can do a simple command of nano etc pacman.d mirror list. And this is all of our Arch mirrors. So it looks like its first mirror is a server in Australia. That's not good for us because we live in the United States. So we want to... Not that.
I don't know what you did.
Neither do I. So let's try that again. We're going to take this mirror, cut...
And how are you cutting and pasting it?
Control K, you can see at the bottom, stands for cut text. So in this case, Control U is how you paste it.
How did you select it?
You hold Shift and you can just select text.
Okay.
You can Google a lot of stuff with Linux. In this case, you can Google all the key combos and how to use it. It's really simple.
Okay.
So now we've set the United States mirror as the first, so we'll go ahead and do Control X, yes, save, and write to that file. So now if we do packstrap again, much better speeds. Or what were better speeds. Seems to be fluctuating quite a bit. I'm not entirely sure what's going on.
It might be something with the VM.
Possibly.
Is that faster?
Look, it starts off at a decent drop.
Oh, that's faster. Yeah, that's faster.
Okay.
So I guess
Something
that's how you make VMware have a faster connection, is setting it to bridged.
No, because it shouldn't be doing this in the first place.
Oh, I don't know what's going on then. So we're just gonna let this do its thing.
Normally this doesn't take no more than maybe like a minute or so, because it's only like 300 and something megs, 312.
Yeah.
Now for anyone who needs this info, I will description. It's not difficult.
You'll put what in the description? It cut out.
I'll put the text document, or I'll put a file with all of the things needed to install it.
And we'll also put a link to where you can download Arch. So since Arch pretty much installs from the internet, because don't you need an internet connection to install Arch?
I believe you do.
So even
Although I'm not entirely sure about that.
So even if my ISO is old, it downloads new files anyways.
Theoretically, not entirely sure, but
there's a way to update Arch, which we'll show you.
yeah, it's a simple command. Like every other Linux distro, there's a command to update it. So now that our Arch is installed, our basic Arch, we're not done. We need to generate what's called in Linux is an Fstab file, which is basically how I believe it automatically mounts certain things, such as drives. So to do this in Arch, it's a simple command of gen fstab-U/mnt, send it forward to /mnt etc fstab. Do not pardon my phone, my instructor just sent a notification.
Okay.
So now that our fstab is created, we can arch-chroot into it, and we need to provide mnt as that is our new installation. And now we're in our new install. So now we need to set our time zone. This will be different depending on where you live, and the easiest way to do this is to do /ls or do ls/usr share zone info. Now, of course, you need to pick your correct thing from here. In this case, we live in the US, so we're going to do US. And in this case, we're going to pick Eastern, because that's where I live. Now, to set this, we're going to do ln-sf usr share zone info US Eastern. And now we're going to give it the directory where we want it to go. So in this case, /etc local time. Now, from what I can understand, oh, I put ls, not ln. From what I believe, this creates a link to this file, so it's not copying it, it just creates a link to it.
What was that beeping sound? Anyway.
So now we need to set our clock, HW clock dash SYSTOHC dash dash, not 1, we need 2. Now our clock has been set. Now we need to generate our locale. So first thing you need to do is edit etc locale.gen. And we want United States English. So we'll do Control W, EN underscore capital US. We'll do that a couple of times till we find it in the list. Oh, look, here we go. We're going to remove the hashtag or the comment to make it a valid entry, and then Control X to save it. From here, we do locale-gen, which will generate our locales. Now we need to set it in our locale.conf file. So nano etc locale.conf. Here you're going to put lang in capital equals en underscore us dot utf dash 8.
If they're in the US. If they're in
you'll obviously set this depending on what language you've selected. But because we here in the US we use United States English, we're going to have to choose that. So now we need to configure our host name. To do this, you type nano etc hostname. Now you can just enter anything. For here, what we're going to do is video-vm.
It's basically the computer name.
Yeah. It's how it's going to be identified on the network. So we'll go ahead, save this, and remember that. So now we need to edit our host file. So nano etc hosts. On the Arch Wiki, it tells you that you need to put in 127.0.0.1 and then press tab and put in local host. So 127.0.0.1 is the loopback address to localhost or whatever your computer is. And that's IPv4. We also need to do that for IPv6. So : 1 tab localhost. And we also have to do 127.0.1.1 tab and put in our FQDN. In this case, that's going to be the name of our VM, so video-vm. And on the Arch Wiki, if you don't have any kind of domain name set up, just put local domain, .local domain. And then after that, put in space and then put the host name again, video-vm. All right, so go ahead and save this file. And now we need to set a root password. To do this, type in passwd and then set your password. Keep in mind, it will not show what characters you're entering. It's just going to stay blank. Okay, so now, from here, we could generate Grub, but let's get a couple of packages installed. Some that will be helpful to us. So to do this, we're going to type in pacman, which is the Arch Linux package manager, -S, and we're going to install Grub, network, I can't type, manager, so we can get online, xorg, which will be our display manager, I believe, sddm, so the simple desktop display manager, xfce4, that's going to be our desktop environment, Firefox, so we have a web browser, and let's see here, Pulse Audio, so we have audio, network-manager applet, so we have a little network icon in the tray, bottom right. Huh?
It says
Oops.
network manage.
Yeah, VNC connections aren't that good.
Oh yeah.
We need to add in our U code for our CPU. Because Julia has an Intel, we're going to type in Intel-U code. If you have an AMD, replace Intel with AMD and put -U code. Let's see, is there anything else that we need to at the moment? Because we're doing EFI, we need to add EFI boot mgr to the application. Helps if I put a space in between. Okay, and I believe that's it. very basic install of apps.
And now it's going to install all of them.
Yep, you can just hit accept all the defaults, which in this case will install all of them, or whatever is just default selected. Shouldn't be an issue. And we'll go ahead and let this download and install. So now that our install is done, we need to enable some packages. To do this, Arch uses systemd, so we'll use systemctl enable, and then the package names. In this case, it's network manager and stdm. Now we can install Grub, our bootloader. To do this, you need to make a directory. So mkdir boot grub. We need to do grub-mkconfig-o boot grub.cfg. This will generate our config, and then we can do grub-install dev sda. And there we go. Grub is installed. So now what we're going to do is create a user. Otherwise, you'll have to log in as root and recommended unless there's a certain reason. So we're going to do editor equals nano, because that's the editor we'll use. You can use something like Vim, VI, whatever you want to use. And then we need to edit visudo, vsudo, and we need to look for wheel. So here, this is the one we want to remove the comment on. So pretty much anyone in the wheel group will be able to execute commands as sudo. So we save that, and now we can add our user. To do this, it's user add -m-G wheel, so the group, -s, which is, and then we type bin bash, our terminal, bash prompt, and then here we can pick our username. We're going to just call this video. Video group exists. Okay. User. So now what we can do is type in passwd on user, set our password.
And definitely make it different than the root one when you're doing
Yes, preferably. So now what we need to do is install a package called Yay, which will make installing packages from the AUR really easy. To do this, AUR packages will not create under root, so we need to log in under our newly created user. So we're going to go into the temp folder, which is cd/tmp, and we're going to run a Git Clone command. And the link will obviously be in the guide. That will be in the description. Oops, it appears we forgot to install something. Not a problem. We can run our handy-dandy sudo pacman-s on git. Type in our password that we totally didn't just copy root from.
Uh-oh. Alright, did it work?
So now if we rerun that git command... Oh, maybe it helps if I spell git correctly.
Yeah.
Alright, we're cloned. So now we can go into that folder and run make pkg-si. We'll go ahead and let it install a dependency package. Alright, so now we can install our package. And pretty much from here, we're done. We can exit out of the user, exit out of chroot, run a command to unmount our mounted partitions, which is umount-r/mnt. And from here, we can simply tell it to reboot. And there we go. We have Arch on our bootloader. We can tell it to boot. And we have a login screen. Would you look at that? So now if we log in, we should have an XFCE4 desktop. And we do.
Shouldn't we show how to update Arch?
Oh, it's just a quick little command. You go into a terminal, you type in sudo pacman -S YYU. Type in your password, and there you go.
There's also ways to create aliases, but you could just do this command if you want.
Alias, I don't see why this command's too hard.
Yeah, true.
But that's how you update Arch.
Looks like it's already updated.
Indeed. So that's how to get a basic Arch install up and running. UEFI.
This is on UEFI without dual booting. We will have videos in the future of dual booting with UEFI. We'll also have a video of installing Arch and Legacy, both dual booting and non-dual booting. So keep that in mind because it is a little different process when you do it those ways. Which is why we're going to have separate videos on them. So anything else you want to say?
No, I think that's about it. Very easy to install.
Yeah, once you know what you're doing, it's really easy. I will start having more videos. I haven't had very many videos lately because I've had things to do and stuff.
The best place to get help with Arch is the Arch Wiki or the Arch community forums.
Also, that time is way off. It says it's either 7 a.m. or p.m., which is not.
Yeah, that's something to do with the way Arch handles time. I don't entirely know yet why. It just is, and I'm not entirely sure of the fix, because I would do multiple different commands, and it would just randomly fix. And I would never know which command is the one that fixes it.
You could also just manually change it.
You could, and a lot of people will tell you to tell Windows to have Windows run, like, I think it's UTC time or something like that.
This isn't a dual boot. This is a just.
I know, but I'm just saying it's confusing the way Arch is just the way it just does it on Linux in general. It's not just Arch.
When I dual booted Arch and Windows on my computer, Windows did not seem happy. It kept waking my computer.
It's just the way Linux in general is. The way Linux in general does time is different than Windows.
It kept making my computer wake up randomly and then go back to sleep like a minute later. It was so weird. Because it would mess with the time.
Seems like it's 2 hours off. Oh wait, no. Yeah, it's a couple hours off from my time.
Yeah.
Either way, we have a fully functioning Arch install. Yay.
Yeah. And if you want to install more stuff, you can get stuff from the AUR.
Well, there's more. There's the AUR, there's the Arch repositories. A lot of things are available through there, or if they're not, they're usually available through the AUR. Now, the AUR is run by the community, so not everything's guaranteed to work. But to install stuff, it's really simple. You do sudo pacman -S. Let's install Discord. You just type Discord.
Alright, sorry about that, guys. I had to cut that out.
Well, either way, we're done.
So that is how you install Arch. I had to cut out the audio because I had background noise. So, yeah. Anything else you want to say?
No.
Alright, thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this, and bye.